Und damit sage ich willkommen zurück zu The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. Ich muss kurz schauen, dass der Stream auch auf YouTube läuft. Ja, tut er. Und dann können wir direkt reinstarten. Ich habe das Spiel gerade gespielt, weil ich eigentlich vom Startmenü aus starten wollte und nicht aus dem Home-Menü wieder. Und ich weiß nicht, ob das ein Running Gag ist, aber das Spiel will, dass wir wieder eine Uhrzeit eingeben. Okay. Es ist 8:09 Uhr am Abend. Bestätigen. Sekunde mal, warte. Was? Ist was? Kann ich kurz was sagen, bevor wir loslegen? Ja, tust du ja schon, Spiel. Danke, dass du die Uhrzeit beide Male eingestellt hast, nachdem du das Spiel gestartet hast. Ja, bitteschön. Viele nehmen diesen Schritt nicht ernst. Die belassen die Uhrzeit einfach bei 12 Uhr und lassen es dann gut sein. Du machst dir tatsächlich die Mühe, die Uhrzeit einzustellen. Das weiß ich zu schätzen. So weiß ich, dass die Erfahrung wichtig ist. Ich kann gar nicht wissen, ob die von dir eingestellten Uhrzeiten korrekt sind. Na, könntest du schon. Da oben rechts ist ein System, wo es gibt bestimmt eine Möglichkeit, darauf zuzugreifen. Macht Super Mario Odyssey ja auch. Glaube ich. Ich habe einen Vorschlag für dich. Da du so kooperativ warst, kannst du beim nächsten Spielstart einfach eine Lieblingszeit einstellen. Okay. Dankeschön. Was ist denn meine Lieblingsuhrzeit? Wenn ich von der Arbeit wiederkomme, 16:12 Uhr oder was? Dieses Spiel ist komisch. Habe ich das schon mal erwähnt? Ich glaube schon, deswegen spiele ich es, ne? Ja, dann wollen wir das Spiel mal beginnen. Die Stanley Parable 2, wie es jetzt ja so umbenannt wurde vom Spiel selber. So, dann teile ich noch eben kurz den Stream-Link auf Discord, weil ich es kann. Fertig.
This is the story of a man named Stanley.
Willkommen zurück. Perfekt.
Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427.
Das kennen wir ja schon alles.
Employee number 427.
Deswegen überspringe ich es einfach mal ganz geschickt. Ganz fies, ich weiß. So, dann können wir richtig loslegen.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Ja, lustig, dass da Meeting Room
Stanley
steht.
lifted the bucket into his arms, and a wave of comfort rushed over him.
Beim letzten Mal haben wir ja diesen Eimer hier freigeschaltet. Und damit verändert sich die Spielgeschichte, je nachdem, was man für ein Ende macht. Und beim letzten Mal haben wir ja den ganz normalen Weg genommen. Also, wo man eigentlich im Standardspiel entkommt. Aus der Mind Control Facility. Aber es hat nicht funktioniert. There will be a reward for finding them all. Echt? Ist das? Hier kriegt man eine Liste, wo die alle sind. Red und Blue könnten die Türen sein. Fireplace weiß ich gerade nicht. Stairs könnte der Weg zum Chefbüro sein. Employee 416, okay. Interessant.
Stanley, we must move on from this broom closet, simply because I have no remaining stickers. If I did, you can guarantee we'd be in here for hours. But alas, no stickers.
Da haben wir ja letztes Mal die Aufkleber herbekommen. So, hier könnte irgendwo dann eine dieser Figuren sein. 6 Stück gibt's ja. Hier ist keine. Die Tür ist zu. Wo könnte das Ding dann sein? Weiter unten. Ja, tatsächlich hier.
Another miniature Stanley figurine. This, you know, there really must be a snappier name for these things. What about mini stands? Stanley figs? What about Stanlerines? Yes, I think I like that. Another Stanlerine under your belt.
Hälfte haben wir, der Stanley-Kuchen. Alles klar. So, ich wollte aber mal gucken, was passiert, wenn man in der Mind Control Facility das Ding anschaltet. Deswegen gehen wir da jetzt nochmal hin. Bla 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 bla. Ja, man dreht sich wirklich sehr langsam. Ich glaube, das könnte ich mal irgendwann hochstellen. Was für ein Gedicht haben wir diesmal? I get the feeling. Was steht da? Irgendwas for stealing. Okay, dankeschön. Interessant.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire if not for the soothing presence of the bucket. Even now, in his darkest of hours, did the bucket's warmth and guiding light pierce the dark clouds of confusion and chaos. It would be with him always. The bucket would.
Kann ich jetzt schon eingeben
And he
eigentlich?
knew it. The two of them were inseparable. At this point, Stanley was so absorbed in the tender spiritual connection he shared with the bucket that he didn't notice the keypad behind the boss's desk. Nor in his bliss of simply being near the bucket did he have any notion that the PIN number for the keypad was 2845.
Sag los.
But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck.
Wobei es mich nicht
Was
gewundert
it
hätte, wenn
the
es jetzt einen
bucket
anderen
knew
Code
all
gäbe.
along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
Dann wollen wir mal runter. Irgendwie ist das Lighting auf dem Eimer aber so ein bisschen komisch. Sehr viele Polygone, die man manchmal sieht. Egal, die Grafik des Spiels ist eh nicht der Fokus und ich bin die letzte Person, die sich über Grafiken, glaube ich, aufregt. Also wirklich.
The elevator raced downward, plummeting towards an unknown fate. It would be all Stanley could do to keep himself together, if not for the bucket. Soothing him, comforting him, reassuring that in this darkest moment of uncertainty, he would be all right. The bucket is here for you, Stanley. Everything will be fine.
Nein, sag bloß. Alles wird gut, aber die Sicherungen fliegen wieder alle raus. Super.
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility.
Dann wollen wir mal.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves.
Also grundsätzlich das gleiche, was wir letztes Mal schon hatten, ne?
The monitors jumped to life, and Stanley nearly dropped the bucket in shock. Everyone in the office was being videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs. The bucket
Oder? Ja, da
had
waren
never
wir, glaub ich, noch
seen
nicht.
anything like this, and it very nearly burst into tears as Stanley cradled it gently, reassuring it that everything would be fine.
Stimmt, das ist ein Ende, das wir noch gar nicht hatten. Das kenne ich aus dem ersten Teil aber.
Was
Oh,
the
man.
bucket under the mind control facility's influence
Oh,
as
landet.
well? Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the first place? These questions raced furiously in Stanley's feeble mind. No! He screamed into the bucket. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control, never! He squeezed the bucket tighter. His one friend in the entire world. At this point, he could trust no one except for the bucket.
Ist ja auch kein anderer da. Von daher.
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he and the bucket would dismantle the controls for good. Two best friends, Stanley and the bucket, up against the world.
Jetzt bin ich
They
gespannt.
high-fived in a really cool way, and the bucket made a sassy comment about taking down the system. But at the last second, the bucket jumped in and pressed the button
Okay.
to turn on the controls.
Kann man
Stanley
jetzt das machen?
gasped in horror. Had this been the bucket's plan all along? To take over the machine and claim the power for itself?
Ja, es war der Eimer, nicht ich. Alles
How
gut.
could the bucket have betrayed him like this? Stanley was prepared to throw the bucket away in disgust when suddenly an image appeared upon the enormous screen. Birds. Silly, silly birds. The control buttons became active again.
jetzt nicht deren Ernst. Kann man hier TV-Kanäle wechseln zwischen Vögeln oder was?
Stanley flipped through one video of silly birds after another, and then it dawned on him. This wasn't a mind control facility at all. It was a facility for monitoring and surveilling silly birds all over the world. The mind controls were only a facade to disguise its true intentions. Had the bucket known this all along? Stanley marveled at the metal genius in his hands, the one who had pointed him towards this incredible discovery. Stanley and the bucket never found freedom because they spent the rest of their lives here in this place, flipping through live streams of the silliest birds imaginable. Of all the possible paths his life could have taken, this one was surely the best.
Ich sag's mal so, fast ganz gut zusammen, was einige Leute so nach der Arbeit oder nach der Schule den ganzen Tag machen. Auf YouTube. Kein Countdown? Nein? Alles klar, Spiel. Dann halt nicht. Dann halt echt nicht.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Dann wollen wir mal, was gibt's noch für
The confusion and the
interessante
chaos
Enden?
all seemed to melt away as Stanley embraced the bucket.
Ich würde vorschlagen, das Ende mit den Spielen ist noch ganz interessant immer.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his... This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be.
Ah.
And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this better than the meeting room? Yes, Stanley thought to himself. Yes, perhaps it truly was. How insightful the bucket turned out to be.
Oh, man kann die wirklich klicken. Ne, man kann überall drauf klicken. Ich wollte schon sagen.
No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Go there. Good.
Said the bucket.
Now ride the lift
Oh,
all the
da
way to the
ist
top.
eine Figur.
There's
Wie
something
komm
up
ich hier
there I
hin?
need you to do.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
Wie auch immer man da hinkommt. Runterspringen geht nicht, würde ich sagen. Weil springen können wir ja nicht. Ging ja nur in dem lustigen Kreis. Vom letzten Mal. Sind hier nicht auch die rote und die blaue Tür? Vielleicht irgendwo? Da müsste ja auch eine Figur sein, oder war es schon gemeint damit?
No, stop. Look there on the wall. You see, there's a sign right there. It says, no buckets past this point. Stanley, how could you think it was okay to bring the bucket here? Unless, what if the problem is that you actually don't know what is a bucket and what isn't a bucket? I suppose that would explain a lot about your behavior up to this point. Which, if that's true, well, my goodness, I think we have to do something about it. This misunderstanding could have dire consequences on the entire rest of the game if not addressed quickly and properly. So much of the impact of the story is dependent on your understanding of what is and isn't a
Ich
bucket.
glaube, ich weiß, was das
Please, step in here.
ist. Ein Eimer. Dankeschön. Was soll das jetzt werden? Hier waren wir noch nicht.
Now then,
Ist das ein Eimer?
I'm going to run you through some test scenarios, and you'll tell me whether or not the thing I'm showing you is a bucket. Simple enough, right? This should tell us everything we'll ever need to know about what is or is not a bucket. Okay, let's begin.
Ah, okay, kommt man nicht mehr raus. Und das soll jetzt hier eine Spielshow
Item
werden.
one. Is this a bucket?
Ha. Auf keinen Fall. Nee.
Correct.
Was?
It is a hologram of a bucket, not an actual. Item 2. Is this a bucket?
Das ist jetzt natürlich ein echter Eimer. Für alle, die da im ersten darauf eingefallen sind oder so.
Incorrect. It is a 3D printed recreation of a bucket, not an actual bucket.
Das macht es aber auch zu einem Eimer. Okay.
Item 3. Is this a bucket?
Sieht mir nicht nach 3D-Druck oder Hologramm aus. Ja. Ja.
This is a bucket.
Okay.
Item 4. Is this a bucket?
Da könnte ein Eimer hinten drin sein.
Are you hallucinating? This is a tractor. It's an enormous machine that tills the earth. I thought this was a gimmick. How on earth did you manage to screw it up? Absolutely incredible. Let's just move on to the next one.
Ich liebe ihn nur mal dieses Spiel.
Is this a bucket?
Nein, ist Traktor?
Incorrect. This is a bucket.
Hä?
Item 6. Is this a bucket?
Oh. Kann man sich da rausglitschen? Ups. Habe ich das Spiel gerade kaputt gemacht? Ist das ein Eimer? Ich glaube, ich habe mich gerade rausgeglitscht. Ist das gewollt? Gibt es hier unten ein Ende? Nee. Habe ich es gerade wirklich geschafft, das Spiel zu... Ja, buggen. LOL. Ja. Ich glaube, ich habe es wirklich gerade geschafft, das Spiel zu... Oder?
Now then, I'm going to run you through some test scenarios and you'll tell me whether or not the thing I'm showing you is a bucket. Simple enough, right? This should tell us everything we'll ever need to know about what is or is not a bucket. Okay, let's begin.
Habe ich es gerade wirklich geschafft, das Spiel so zu verwirren, dass er gerade den Raum neu laden musste? Also, dann merken wir uns mal. Das erste war kein Eimer.
Correct. It is a hologram of a bucket, not an actual bucket.
Dieses Crouchen macht echt manche Punkte dieses Spiels kaputt, ne? Haben wir auch beim ersten Mal auch schon geschafft, das zu buggen.
Is this a bucket?
Nein, das ist ein 3D-Druck eines Eimers. Oder? Ja, ich glaube, der zweite war ein 3D-Druck, oder? Ja.
Correct. It is a 3D printed recreation of a bucket,
Das dritte war
not
ein
an
Eimer.
actual bucket.
Aber schön, dass ich es auch mal von selber schaffe, so ein Spiel hier zu verbuggen.
Is this a bucket? Correct. This is a bucket.
Das ist kein Eimer, das ist ein Traktor.
Item 4. Is this a bucket?
Yay.
Correct. This is a tractor and not a bucket. To be honest, I just sort of put this one in here as a gimme, but I was starting to get concerned that even this might be too much for you. Thank you for not making me look like an idiot. Okay, next one.
Und das nächste war eindeutig ein Eimer, ne? Genau, das ist ein Eimer.
Is this a bucket? Correct.
Ja.
This is a bucket.
Und das sechste, das war auch wieder ein Eimer, oder?
Item 6. Is this a bucket?
Keine Ahnung, das haben wir nicht beantworten können. Sah vom Nahen so aus.
Trick question. Both. Gotcha.
Hä?
Item... Wait, hold on. I can't find the next one. Let me see. It should be around here somewhere.
Ja, es ist bestimmt gleich ein Eimer.
Okay, you and I both know there isn't anything here. And I don't appreciate the implication that
Doch, ich
nothing
habe
is
einen
a
Eimer in
bucket
meiner Hand.
when we both clearly know that a bucket is something. And therefore nothing could possibly be something. Unless, in your twisted mind, have you somehow convinced yourself that a bucket is nothing? Answer me straight, Stanley. Do you believe that nothing is a bucket?
Nichts ist ein Eimer. Nein.
You know what? I'm too confused to even sort it out. I've lost all sense of perspective. What is a bucket? What isn't a bucket? Mere moments ago I could answer these questions with confidence. And yet now I'm somewhat adrift. Do any of us know what a bucket is? Am I a bucket? Stanley, I can't keep doing this.
Ja, doch, wie klar du
myself was
sprichst.
all I ever had to begin with.
Mit
I'm
mir aus
afraid
dem
the
Eimer raus,
bucket
ne?
is threatening to tear our relationship apart. I can't have that. I'm sorry. But I'm going to erase all buckets from the game entirely. Okay, here we go.
Das ist
What happened?
alles.
Is everything gone? Why did everything disappear? Wait, was everything a bucket? Every single thing in the game was a bucket? Oh my God, I had no idea. How could... except me. I'm not a bucket after all. And you, Stanley, you're still here. You're not a bucket either. Oh, this is wonderful news. We're not buckets. Yes, I actually feel much more at ease right now. It's delightful to get some clarity on that issue, but it doesn't change the fact that we haven't got a game. So, tell you what, I'll reset everything and we'll put back all of the buckets, okay? And we'll know that it's all a bucket. But if you run into anyone else, maybe don't mention that. Who knows what that information might do to a person? All right, here we go.
Wunderbares Spiel. Muss man ja immer wieder sagen. Also alles ist ein Eimer in diesem Spiel. Ich glaube, dieses Spiel hat wirklich nah an einem Eimer gefressen. Ich weiß nicht, soll das irgendwie eine Parodie darauf sein, dass ein dämlicher Gegenstand irgendwie ein Spiel ausmachen kann? Oder was soll mir das sagen?
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply
Aber wir waren ja gerade out of bounds kurz. Es gibt einen anderen Ort im Spiel.
Through Stanley's arms. With the bucket in his arms again, he was home.
Das war auch immer relativ bekannt, dass man da rausblicken konnte. Dann machen wir das mal. So, inzwischen haben wir ja 3. Rot und Blau, viele Boxen und in der Nähe eines Fireplace.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
Fireplace könnte ja hier sein, oder? Hier?
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire, if not for the soothing presence of the bucket.
Anderer Kamin nämlich ein.
In his darkest of hours, did the bucket's warmth and guiding light pierce the dark clouds of confusion and chaos? It would be with him, always. The bucket would. And he knew it. The two of them were inseparable. At this, but Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
Oh, hier.
Okay, I'm going back to the name of these little Stanley figurines, and now I'm torn between Stanlerines and Figlies. What do you think, Stanley? What name better encapsulates the intrinsic sense of happiness that you get from seeing a small number in the corner of your screen go up by 1? Let me sit on it. I'm sure it will come to me.
Okay, einen anderen kennen wir ja schon. Könnte der mit der rot-blau Tür sein. Bei dem Transportlift, ansonsten fällt mir gerade nicht ein, wo noch einer sein könnte. Wenn der überhaupt mit dem rot und blauen Türen gemeint ist, war es ja doch ein bisschen weg. Aber könnte sein, dass man da von hinten irgendwie rankommen kann dann. Keine Ahnung.
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read mind control facility.
So, dann wollen wir mal. Hier kommt man irgendwie sich hochglitschen, ne?
The lights rose on an enormous room packed
Ja,
with television
konnte man.
screens. What horrible... But just as Stanley was about to proceed further into the mind control facility, he tripped and fell over the railing and into the dark void below. Thankfully, he fell directly onto the bucket, which safely cushioned his fall. Now, what to do next, Stanley wondered. Stanley and the bucket could find no way out of this enormous pit, and so eventually they decided that the best thing to do would be to simply get comfortable down here. So they set up a little couch and relaxed. It really wasn't so bad down here, a bit cold perhaps.
Also ich weiß, dass hier was passiert, weil ich
After
wurde
some
durch
time had gone by, they
einen
installed a few
YouTube-Titel
shelves
schon mal
as well,
gespoilert,
and a
aber
sort of kitchenette that was useful for when the bucket was craving paninis.
ist mal wieder so typisch.
But it wasn't until the rugs and the standing lamps came in that it really started to feel like a home.
Wo kriegt ihr das
after
Zeug hier
some
unten her?
time, Stanley realized that it had been ages since he had even thought of the mind control facility at all. He'd never gotten to fully explore what was up there, never been able to unearth the many mysteries of the mind control facility. This lack of closure began to eat at him. Soon he was dwelling on his regrets, and the state of their home slowly decayed as Stanley became withdrawn and neglected the cleaning. It unsettled the bucket deeply. Stanley wasn't usually like this. The bucket tried to reach out to him again and again, but to no avail. All Stanley could think about, all he could talk about, was going back.
Wir sind immer noch in
doing
einem
it
Loch.
over again, staying on the path. It was a mistake to leave the path. It was a mistake. It was a mistake. I need to do what the narrator says. I need to see the true ending.
Abentwister.
This made no sense at all to the bucket, which was simply trying to live its life down here as comfortably as possible. Yet Stanley was unconsolable. This isn't an ending. This is just a hole in the ground.
Anscheinend ist es doch ein Ende
Bucket
jetzt.
sighed. True, it wasn't an ending. But it's where we happen to be. And maybe, possibly, if we accept the reality of things, maybe this will become an ending eventually. It's what the bucket was counting on. The
Okay,
two of
also
them waited for a very long time.
wie gesagt, ich wusste, dass irgendwas hier unten passiert, weil sie diesen Glitch in Anführungszeichen gepatcht hatten, aber das ist auch wieder ein bisschen viel. Ja, wie läuft's? Läuft interessant insgesamt. Der Eimer macht doch einiges anders. Kann man sich nicht auch hier irgendwo aus dem Fenster so rausglitschen mal? Ich hab's vorhin schon geschafft, an der Stelle das Spiel zu crashen, mehr oder weniger. Jo, aber sonst, guten Appetit dir auf jeden Fall. Lass dir schmecken.
Stanley picked up the bucket and smiled. He'd never be alone again, not truly alone, not with the bucket around.
Okay,
Stanley
welches Ende können wir
clutched the
noch
bucket
machen?
tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Machen wir das,
This was
wo ich
not
letzte Mal
the
verkackt
correct
hatte und
meeting room.
runtergesprungen bin.
Stanley had felt the bucket
Cargo-Lift,
calling to him,
beziehungsweise
telling
danach.
him that the employee
Gehen wir noch mal
lounge
zum
was
Telefon.
simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out
Ja, ja,
to be
alles gut,
correct?
Twister.
Was this better than the No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
Nein, tat er nicht.
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting
Was
room.
passiert, wenn man jetzt
Go
hier einfach
somewhere
runterspringt?
else. The cargo lift, yes. Go there. Go to the cargo lift.
But Stanley feared that any path he walked might lead to the separation of himself and the bucket, his dearest friend. So he threw himself to his death, that they might die in one another's arms. How deeply touching.
Was eine Liebesgeschichte. Ich würde mal sagen, das ist so ziemlich das kürzeste Ende, was man erreichen kann, aber selbst das kriegt ein neues Eimer-Ende. Ich glaube, es ist wirklich jeder Scheiß. Das einzige Ende, was ich auf keinen Fall auch niemals privat mir anschauen werde mit dem Eimer.
Stanley thought to himself.
Nee, wobei es geht gar nicht, ne? Zu den Spielen, also zu dem Babyende kommt man gar nicht mit Eimer, ne? Da wurden wir ja vorhin von der Spielshow aufgehalten.
Stanley clutched
Okay.
the bucket tightly to
Gut.
This was not
Da
the
müssen jetzt
correct way to
100%
the
nicht
meeting
zweimal
room.
durchstehen.
But Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this better than the meeting room? Yes, Stanley thought to himself. Yes, perhaps it truly was. How insightful the bucket turned out to be.
Kann ich leider nicht lesen. Nichts
No,
mit VA.
never mind. The
Valve
bucket was wrong.
oder so?
Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
Nein, immer noch nicht. Aber diesmal
No,
schmeißen wir uns nicht in den
Said the
Tod.
bucket.
Don't
Moment.
go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Go there. Go to the cargo lift.
Da ist eine kleine Rampe. Das ist die vorletzte
You're
Stanley-Figur.
getting close now, Stanley. You've nearly gotten all of the Figler and Marines. Very soon, you'll collect the last one, and then the first number will equal the second number, and that will be it. We'll be different people by then. Different in the sense that we used to have none of them, and now we have them all. You can't go back to when you had no Figler and Marines. None of us can.
Naja, außer durchs Zurücksetzen des Spiels. Okay, so kommt man hier hin. Da war dieses kleine Rämpchen, was man nehmen kann. Und da war ich noch nie. Was ist das jetzt hier? Das kenne ich auch nicht.
Okay, this is day number 295. Tape number... I don't even know. I've lost track. Nothing feels real anymore. The longer I study this bucket, the less sense anything makes. The sheer euphoria I feel every time I pick it up. No matter how many times I've done it, it's always the same feeling. And the emptiness in my chest when I set it down. It doesn't make sense. There's no explanation for it. I still haven't figured out why I see the world so differently when this bucket is in my arms. Why everything feels so... What do I do with this treasure? I can monetize it. Yes.
Kann ich ein Spiel mit erstellen?
It's unthinkable the amounts of money people will pay for even just an hour with the bucket. This is my golden ticket. But I have to be careful, because as soon as this gets out, there's going to be a target on my back. Even now, I don't know who might be trying to get... What's that? Who's there? Camporata.
Das war auch wieder so eine Sache. Geht's noch weiter? Nein, okay, nochmal Neustart.
How wonderful. Stanley was alone. Finally. This
Jawohl.
is great, he thought to himself. This is what I've wanted all along. I got what I wanted.
Das war aber nicht im Originalspiel drin, oder?
Bucket asked. Stanley just smiled. Anywhere they went together would be perfectly fine with him.
Weil an dieses Ende kann ich mich aus dem Original nicht erinnern.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to
Aber
his
ja, ich habe für eine
This was not the
Stunde
correct way to
einmal
the meeting
Gameplay
room.
tatsächlich
But
knapp
Stanley
über
had felt
22
the
Euro, glaube
bucket
ich, was
calling to
bezahlt.
him,
Oh,
telling
ich habe
him
Goldpunkte
that the
benutzt, also
employee lounge
20
was
oder
simply
sowas
the
war das
place to be.
Spiel hier.
And here it was. Had the bucket
So,
turned
jetzt
out
aber
to be
endlich zu dem
correct?
Telefon, wo ich
Well,
eigentlich hin wollte.
never
Wenn
mind.
man überhaupt noch
The
hinkommt.
bucket was wrong.
Mit Eimer.
Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
Speedrun.
No,
Said the bucket.
don't
Wie
go
kannst
to
du
the
diesen
meeting
Spiel? Ja,
room.
lustig.
Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yeah, good.
Said the bucket.
Now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley
Yeah.
chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
Gehen wir auf Nummer sicher nicht, dass ich in dieses Loch hier aus lächerlichen Gründen falle.
In here.
Said the bucket.
Go into this dark room over here.
Stanley once
Yeah, no.
again obeyed blindly.
Now pick up the phone.
Said the bucket.
Pick up the phone and it will take us back home, where we can go about life together.
Nein. Wir ziehen wieder den Stecker.
Oh, hold on. Why did you unplug the phone? Were you trying to resist the bucket's orders? Stanley, I was joking. Obviously, the bucket isn't talking to you and telling you to do things. Buckets can't talk.
It was a joke. Don't you get the joke? It's
Nee.
funny, Stanley. A talking bucket.
Can't you see? Oh, goodness. I must have really bungled up the delivery if you actually took me seriously. Where did I mess up the joke? Should I have paused for longer or spoken quicker? Comedic timing is so difficult. I wish I were better at it. But there isn't exactly an instructional video on comedy that one can watch to fully... Oh, wait, yes, there is.
Nein.
It's sitting right
Die haben hier
there.
nicht noch ein
Let's take a
extra
look.
Erklärvideo gemacht, ne? Zur Entscheidung und jetzt über Comedy.
What is comedic timing? What is comedic timing? How does it work? How long should it last? How can it be used to effectively silence your political enemies? And more importantly, can it be taught in its entirety within 90 seconds?
Bestimmt.
Thankfully, the answer to all of these questions is yes. Let's dive deeper. If you've ever told a joke or made someone laugh, in all likelihood, you did it while standing 50 to 80 centimeters from them in a room of no more than 76 degrees Fahrenheit, with one of your arms raised straight upward at a 15-degree angle from your body.
Hauptsache es ist ja
These
rechte
are
bei
the
45.
optimal conditions for good comedic timing. To begin the joke, start by stating and spelling your name. Next, provide a brief synopsis of the joke, including the specific times at which the recipient of the joke will laugh, and then spell out your name a second time. With these steps complete, it's time to begin the humor. Speak the entire joke in no more than 18 seconds and no less than 13 and a half, pausing only for bathroom breaks when necessary. When the joke has concluded, it is customary to inform your listener that the joke is over by declaring in your loudest possible voice, "I'm Dunny with the funny." Let's practice screaming, "I'm Dunny with the funny" now.
Die Witzelei ist nun vorbei. Yippie-yay. Hey, hey.
Good. This saying is a perfect example of expectations management, which is the cornerstone of good comedy. Finally, it's time to hand out surveys. Collecting hard data from your audience on how rapt they were throughout the joke is the only way to grow or learn as a comedian. An effective survey should be no less than 10 pages long and should include the same question reprinted several times, just to ensure the survey taker is actually paying attention and not simply filling in answers at random. And that's all there is. With these strategies at your disposal, you'll have audiences doubled over in laughter
Also ich kenne
and even
mindestens
tripled
20
over in
Comedians, die
laughter
erstmal so
in no
publizieren
time at
müssten.
all. Just remember to let them stop laughing at some point, you gut-busting little scamp. After all, with each of us needed on the front lines of the war to fight the 12-legged invader who threaten our very existence, and to very likely die in a hailstorm of bullets and mandibles. All of us must be prepared to give our lives to this noble cause, just as our children must do after us, and their children after them. Godspeed, and may Earth reign supreme.
Gesundheit was?
Hey, goodness, this video is a little outdated, isn't it? Well, no matter. I think the fundamentals of proper comedic timing are still as relevant today as they were back then. So with that in mind, I believe the only way forward is for us to return to the two doors and walk through all of this again, so I can try telling my story with more appropriate comedic delivery. Come along, let's head back.
Schade, ich dachte, die Witzelei ist nun vorbei. Da lag ich aber wohl falsch.
I can feel it. This time, I'm really going to nail the delivery. You'll be in stitches. A talking bucket, you'll say? How ridiculous. How absurd. What a hilarious concept. The king of comedy. That's what you'll call me. Thank goodness we had the instructional video. Otherwise, who knows where we'd be right now. Well, I wouldn't be the king of comedy, that's for sure. The bucket spoke to Stanley.
The bucket spoke.
The bucket spoke. Oh, I'll figure it out on the fly. No need to overthink things.
Achtung, nicht lügen. Wenn du jetzt gerade lügst, hör auf. Okay, ich habe doch keinen Spaß an diesem Spiel. Fuel. Ja, gerade so ziemlich das teuerste Getränk, was man sich so kaufen kann. Heute Morgen 2,25 € für Super an der Tankstelle gegenüber, also das ist schon nicht mehr lustig.
Here we go. You ready? When Stanley and the bucket came to a set of two open doors, they entered the door on the left.
Nein.
What? We're back at the phone already? No, what's going on? There were supposed to be several rooms leading up to this. There was supposed to be a build-up to this point, a dramatic display of remarkable comedic wit which culminates in this scene with the phone. But now the
Das war
timing
gutes
completely
Comedy-Timing.
off. The joke will never land. Well, not the way it was meant to.
Kannst du die
And it's
anstecken?
all my fault. I must have forgotten that the phone room comes
nicht.
immediately after the two doors room. What an egregious mistake. I've made a fool of myself. I don't deserve the title of King of Comedy. I'm nothing. I'm not even the lowliest joke-telling whelp. I think I need to go back and
bitte nicht.
rewatch that instructional video again. Yes, surely that will help me improve my...
Nochmal?
Here we go. You ready? When Stanley and the bucket came to a set of two open doors, they entered the door on the left.
Nein, okay. Dann nicht.
No. You were supposed to go through the door on the right, leading back to the phone. Did you not even look at the instructional video? I think this is all covered very clearly. There's no way I can make the comedic timing work now. It's done. The joke is completely done and over. It's all your fault, Stanley. I'm going to be ridiculed in the community of other joke writers. I'm going to be shamed at every one of our meetings from now on. All because you couldn't watch a simple video and take a hint. Are you proud of yourself for bringing me down, Stanley? Are you proud?
Stanley, you love the bucket so much it's like you... it's as though all of your other most prized possessions
Sind wir wieder an der Stelle,
pale
okay.
in comparison. Yes. Well, let me try that again, Stanley. I heard that you are pale with shame over how unabashedly in love with a bucket you are. No? Still not?
War im Originalspiel auch schon mal vorhanden, dieses Spiel, nur halt ohne Eimer.
Pale with shame? Pale... What's another word to describe a bucket? Stanley, this bucket
Wasserbeförderungsbehältnis.
is metal. I think I saw it playing guitar. No. We're getting away from making fun of Stanley's obsession with the bucket, which was the whole point of this. I'm no good at these jokes. I need more instructional videos. That's exactly what it is. That's what will make me the king of comedy again. More instructional videos. Let's see.
Noch eins. Von mir aus. Wenn es nicht das gleiche ist. Oder auch nicht. Oder
All
auch
of his
nicht.
co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Eine Sache, die mich aber gerade interessiert. Also dieses Ende vom Grundsatz her kannte ich es ja schon aus dem Original, aber ist natürlich nochmal ein bisschen anders gewesen. Der Eimer und Stanley machen sich ein schönes Leben. Out of bounds. Punkt. Oh?
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Das ist wieder so ein zufallsgenerierter Blödsinn. Wie haben wir die Spiegelung? Mich interessiert jetzt nämlich tatsächlich... Gibt es hier auch Tipps? Ah, hier sind Bilder der Dinger. Mich interessiert nämlich, was passiert, wenn man da ohne Eimer runterspringt. Auf dem Klo haben wir schon gefunden. Was macht sie schwebend? Ja, das ist eine gute Frage. Roter Raum. Ist das unten? Da wo wir schon waren, bei den Treppen? Dankeschön. Außerdem sehr komischer Filter, der benutzt wird in dem Raum.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Bla 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 bla.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who... Stanley was in such a rush to get through the story as
Bitte
quickly
nicht
as
nochmal
possible,
Musik.
he didn't even have a single minute to just
Okay,
let the
dann doch.
narrator talk. That kind of anxiety isn't healthy, so he relaxed for a few moments with some calming New Age music.
Ich weiß nicht mal, was New Age Music ist. Ich habe diesen Term noch nie vorher gehört. Aber es klingt okay. Ja, mach mal hin, ne?
Feeling soothed and rejuvenated, Stanley calmly walked forward into the opened passageway.
Ich bin da. Erfrischend mal wieder den Eimer nicht auf dem Screen zu haben die ganze Zeit, muss man ja sagen. Und
Stanley walked
geradeaus.
straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Wie oft auch immer wir schon auf diesem Weg hier waren.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out? Aha! You've made it to the bottom of the mind control facility. Welcome! You see,
Hello.
back when the Stanley Parable first launched in 2013, getting to the bottom of the mind control facility was a bug that we simply didn't catch during development. Anyway, when it came time to update the game, we knew that we had to do something about this little goof of ours, so here you go. New content. You can call it the bottom of the mind control room ending, if that enhances your perception of the value of these updates. Isn't that what you crave? New content?
Yeah.
Always more content, more, more. And I'm here to give it to you. I'm here to make it seem like we really covered every nook and cranny of the game, with secrets and Easter eggs.
Außer
How
das
about this?
Boden, den
We wrote a
Boden
new piece of
der
music just for this
Quiz show.
section. You won't hear it anywhere else in the game. It's a secret that's just for you. That's how special you are. We call this track, Good Job You've Made It to the Bottom of the Mind Control Facility. Well done.
job, you did it. Good job. 3, 2, 1. Good job. You made it to the bottom of the mind control facility. You jumped on the catwalk. You should have been careful. You should have been careful. It used to be a bug, but now it's an ending. Now it's an ending. I believe in you. I believe in your ability to cross this barrier and chase your dreams. But railings don't mean anything. Good job, you did it. 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 Good job.
Also ich bin echt nicht mehr erstaunt, wie viel Quatsch in diesem Spiel vorhanden ist, ne? Ganz im Ernst. Ja, es ist lustig. Trotzdem. Komisches Ding. Egal, dieses Ende hat also auch existiert. Interessant. Gab es nicht auch irgendwann mal ein Ende, wenn man hier einfach drin bleibt?
But Stanley simply couldn't handle the pressure. What if he had to make a decision? What if a crucial outcome fell under his responsibility? He had never been trained for that. No. This couldn't go any way except badly. The thing to do now, Stanley thought to himself, is to wait. Nothing will hurt me. Nothing will break me. In here I can be happy forever. I will be happy. Stanley waited. Hours passed, then days. Had years gone by? He no longer had the ability to tell. But the one thing he knew for sure, beyond any doubt, was that if he waited long enough, the answers would come. Eventually, someday, they would arrive. Soon, very soon now, this will end. He will be spoken to. He will be told what to do. Now it's just a little bit closer.
Und die Anruferin oder der Anrufer lässt immer noch nicht los.
Here it comes.
Ist auch so typisch im Finanzamt, wenn mal wieder die Rufumleitung nicht funktioniert, ne? Da meinen die ja, nee, wir klingen in 2 Minuten durch. Warum auch immer meine Sprachbox eine Zeit lang nicht funktioniert. Das war nervig auf der Arbeit, muss ich wirklich sagen.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Hier war irgendwas mal.
Stanley went around touching every little thing in the
Ja!
office, but it didn't make a
Es existiert
single
noch.
difference, nor did it advance the story in any way.
Ah, das Whiteboard-Ending. Geht das auch noch? Toll. Wir haben den Hundemodus aktiv. Der Eimer ist auch hier. Ich möchte aber nicht, dass hier dauernd Hundegeräusche kommen, also... Sorry. Das wäre etwas nervig.
A good bucket, a strong bucket, a humble bucket, a committed bucket, a bucket of culture and distinct. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Okay. Und uns fehlt immer noch eine Stanley-Figur. Trust wie Completionist Instinct. Das kann ich nicht lesen. Könnte entweder in der Switch-Version liegen oder daran, dass man es nicht lesen soll. Keine Ahnung.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
Schauen wir uns doch mal die untere Region an, da wo wir schon eine dieser Stanley-Figuren gefunden haben.
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fined for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then, something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. He looked down at the bucket in his arms. Am I crazy? He asked the bucket. The bucket returned his gaze, but said nothing at all. That's strange, Stanley thought. Usually the bucket is a source of guidance and wisdom
nirgendwo
for
eine
me
3, ne?
in difficult times such as these. He held the bucket close, yet felt none of its familiar reassurance and comfort. And that's when Stanley realized, this isn't my bucket. It's just a normal, everyday bucket. Someone else's bucket, perhaps. How did I end up with someone else's bucket? This is all terribly wrong. Surely no good would come from this. Who knows what sorts of bizarre hallucinations Stanley might experience without the psychologically grounding presence of his bucket. And indeed, now he noticed that the rooms were repeating, which was, of course, very odd. And now he felt himself floating off the ground. Oh, gracious, he exclaimed. Without my bucket, I've gone truly mad. Where is it? I must find it. Far off in the distance now, he heard it, calling to him.
Stanley! Stanley, it's me, the bucket.
Could it truly be? He rushed forward from room to room, passing by one bucket after the next. None of them were his. None of them were his special bucket.
Come to me, Stanley. Find me.
He had to find the bucket. He had to return to his old friend. It was the only way to truly restore his sanity. And then suddenly, he froze dead in his tracks. He knew where the voice of the bucket had been coming from. The real bucket was inside of him all along.
Ist ja doch ein
It was
Eimer.
incredibly painful. Stanley doubled over in agony and blacked out.
RIP. Da ist wohl ein Eimer gestorben.
This is the story of a woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, picked up her bucket of comfort and security, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town, talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. Right away, she knew what the problem was. This man had no bucket. Of course he'd gone mad, ranting and raving about a narrator describing all of his actions and how everything is predetermined and free will is an illusion and it's all just a video game. It could all have been prevented if only he'd taken his bucket with him.
Ich hab doch meinen Eimer
Perhaps he
dabei.
didn't even realize he'd forgotten his bucket at home in the first place. How cruel the world can be, Mariella thought, and she hugged her own bucket even tighter. But of course, she had no time for this. There were a myriad of confusing problems she would soon have to confront at work, for which her bucket would provide absolute guidance and total clarity on everything. Heck yes, she thought to herself, my life kicks ass. And she backflipped all the way to work.
Okay, dann weiß ich, was ich morgen mache. Ich nehme mir einen Eimer, setze ihn mir auf den Kopf und mache die ganze Zeit Ratschläge 12 Kilometer lang ins Finanzamt. Gut, weiß ich das endlich auch. Und wer uns gerade nicht gehört hat, Namen Cedrik-Ple. Willkommen zu diesem seltsamen Spiel.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had... the embrace of an old friend.
Na, geht doch
A
wieder.
weathered companionship that stands the test of time. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Welche Enden können wir noch probieren? Wir können unten zu dieser Presse gehen. Da ist nichts weiter.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the
Aber wir können
employee
noch mal
lounge
zum
was
Telefon gehen und es
simply the
vielleicht mal
place to
abheben.
be.
Das Ende haben wir
And
noch
here
nicht
it
gehabt.
was. Had the
Auch ohne
bucket
Eimer
turned
noch
out to
nicht.
be correct? Never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left.
Also hier
to
können
go
wir noch
back to the
runtergehen.
meeting room.
Das wäre noch eine Option.
No.
Said the
Und
bucket.
ansonsten halt noch welche, die
Don't
ich
go
aus dem
to the
Original
meeting
kenne, mit denen wir
room.
noch
Go
ausprobieren
somewhere
können.
else. The cargo lift, yes. Good.
Said the bucket.
Now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Stanley did not
Guten Abend,
question
Luki
why
Luki.
or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
Ja, ansonsten fallen mir noch ein paar Enden aus dem Original ein, die hier eigentlich auch funktionieren müssen, weil es ist ja grundsätzlich das Gleiche.
In here.
Said the bucket.
Go into this dark room over here.
Aber
Stanley
gucken wir
once
erst mal, was
again
passiert, wenn man das
obeyed
Telefon
blindly.
nimmt.
Now pick up the phone.
Hallo? Cedrik-Ple Mann, Finanzamt mal. Außer, dass ich meinen Vornamen dabei nicht nenne.
This is the sad story of a man named Stanley and his bucket. Once upon a time, I gave Stanley a bucket because I thought he was lonely and could use a friend. And then, very distressingly, he began to believe the bucket could speak to him.
Schönes Apartment. Muss man ja sagen. Hallo Eimer. Warum muss man zur Arbeit gehen? Können wir was kochen? Nein?
The Stanley Parable Reassurance Bucket was merely meant to provide the comforting glow of companionship. It doesn't literally talk and give you orders. Whatever Stanley is hearing the bucket say to him is just in his head.
Okay. Wieso will der Eimer jetzt schon wieder nach Hause? Bin doch erst gekommen.
Lately, I've been concerned about him. Wouldn't you be concerned as well? To see him delusional like this, obsessing over an inanimate metal object?
Hallo.
I want to say something to him, but I don't know how I can convince him. I don't know if he'll listen to me.
Entweder weg ist kaputt oder wir gehen jetzt um Mitternacht zur Arbeit.
Oh, I'll try anyway. Stanley,
Tag-Nacht-Rhythmus.
can you hear me? Listen to me. It's just a bucket. It can't think, it can't talk. All it will ever truly do for you is effectively transfer a liquid from one location to a different location. That's it. It doesn't do anything else. You see, he's not listening. He's still taking orders from the bucket. You know, once upon a time it was me he took orders from. Me he trusted and listened to. Now all he cares about is his awful bucket. This stupid hunk of metal. It's sad. I suppose he doesn't need me anymore. From now on, he's just going to cling to this bucket, this cold, empty bucket, this sort of shiny bucket. Well, I'll give it this. The bucket does have a nice shine to it.
Sind wir jetzt dann wirklich in einem Tag so oft von der Arbeit und nach Hause gefahren? Das schlägt sich echt nicht gut wieder auf die Spritkosten. Ja, der Eimer ist real, ob er sprechen kann, keine Ahnung. Aber der Eimer existiert, glaube ich.
It's just a little more, what am I trying to say? Sturdier, more capable of transporting liquid. Like it would be better at moving an amount of water from one room to another.
Nochmal von vorn.
Oh my God, what am I saying? Better at carrying water from room to room. It's a bucket. It's literally just a bucket. Why do I feel some need to point out the ways in which it's so much more than just a regular bucket?
Drück Y, oben nach Hause und zur Arbeit, bla bla bla.
Oh no.
Zum Gehen hin und her.
I'm having feelings for the bucket. No, 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 no. What's going on? Why do I want to be with the bucket? Hear what the bucket has to say. Do anything it asks. What's wrong with me? I don't understand. Perhaps if I had the bucket, this would be less confusing. Yes. The bucket could tell me what to do in this troublesome situation.
Ouch.
Stanley, give me the bucket. Give it to me. Give me the bucket, Stanley. I need it. Give it to me now. Give it or I'll...
Geh zurück zur Arbeit, Stanley. Okay. Hoffentlich mit Eimer. Gut, dann haben wir jetzt auch noch Stanleys sexuelle Vorzüge oder Favorisierungen oder Priorisierungen. Ich habe keine Ahnung, wie man das nennt. Und die wird auseinandergesetzt.
Stanley wondered to himself.
Erfahren. Interessant.
Centuries? Did something crucial happen while my senses were turned? He made a note to be more careful with time from now on.
Ich sag nicht, das war komisch, aber es war komisch. Schalten wir mal den Computer aus.
The bucket made Stanley want to be a better man and a better co-worker. In time,
Kann man eigentlich
perhaps,
jemals
he
hier
would
wieder diese
become
neue
both of those
Content-Tür gehen?
things.
Wahrscheinlich nicht, ne? Weil jetzt sind wir in The Stanley Parable
touched the
2.
bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Welches Ende haben wir noch nicht gesehen? Lass mal überlegen. Ja, wir können eins machen, das ist aber dämlich. Mal gucken. Mal gucken, wie sich das verändert. Und ich weiß nicht, ob wir es heute machen, aber ich glaube nicht. Spätestens im nächsten Stream holen wir uns hier mal die letzte Stanley-Figur. Also rot und blau. Wahrscheinlich muss man da, weil man nicht mit dem Eimer dahin kommt, nur mit Stanley hingehen, zu den roten und blauen Türen. Ansonsten kenne ich nichts Rot-Blaues.
Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
So, gehen wir wieder runter, bla bla bla, kennen wir schon.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an
Jaha,
indication of
dankeschön.
any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, but Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it the
Danke, dass du
bucket
zurückgesetzt
knew
wurde
all
und wir
along?
jetzt nicht nach
Was the
normalen New
bucket
Age
guiding
Musik
him?
hören müssen.
Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
Dann tun wir jetzt etwas sehr Spannendes. Wir fahren mit dem Auto nach unten. Wer hätte es gedacht? Und genießen diese Ladesequenz. Und wir sind angekommen. Fahren wir nach oben.
Wait, Stanley said to the bucket. Can we go back up? When I was pressing those keypad buttons, there was something very intriguing about the number 3. I want to go back so I can try pressing the number 3 again. The bucket said nothing.
Weil einmal nicht sprechen können. So, dann sind wir jetzt wieder zurück. Also ja, dieses Ende kenne ich schon aus dem Original. Mal gucken, wie sich es verändert.
Here we are, said Stanley. Now I'm going to try out that number 3 button. He took the bucket over to the keypad and began absolutely slamming on the number 3 over and over and over. Wow, he said. The number 3 is such a special button. I'm having the time of my life. Stanley looked expectantly at the bucket, but the bucket remained silent. This was a shock to Stanley. After taking some time to show the bucket around the boss's office, Stanley at last went to the keypad, where he began eagerly pressing the number 3 again and again.
Das lassen wir jetzt mal. Okay, interessant.
Perhaps the bucket had missed something. Perhaps it had not seen how much joy Stanley got from slamming the number 3 repeatedly.
So, und dann sind wir wieder unten bei der Gedankenkontrolleinheit und machen jetzt etwas super Spannendes.
A hint of regret nagged
fahren
in the
nach
back
oben.
of Stanley's mind. Should he demonstrate the number 3? No, 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 said Stanley to the bucket. You can't go on yet. Not till you understand how much the number 3 means to me. You and I have been through so much together, and I just want you to see what I see. Feel the happiness I feel. He smiled at the bucket, and the bucket said nothing.
Also ich sag's mal so, Stanley wird niemals bei Valve arbeiten können. Da wird er seine Fantasien für die Zahl 3 nicht ausleben können. Hallo.
Here we go, said Stanley. This time I'll really show you. He ran to the number 3 and began to wail on it like a musician on a beloved instrument, weaving a concerto of truth and
Ist hier
passion.
irgendwas, wenn man da 1000-mal
He
drauf
wielded
drückt oder
the
so?
number
Ich will es
3
nicht
like a
ausprobieren.
fine artist would wield a paintbrush. He told stories through the number 3, stories of his dreams and hopes and fears. And the whole time, he looked to his bucket for a reaction of some kind. Anything to let him know that the bucket appreciated what he was doing. The bucket conveyed absolutely nothing at all, only silence. Crushed by a wave of dejection, Stanley returned to the elevator.
Jetzt kommen wir wieder runter, okay.
Stanley and the bucket were so close. They'd always been there for one another. Why suddenly could the bucket not connect with this passion of Stanley's? The question caused Stanley to ruminate the whole way down the elevator. He knew that there must be a way to get through to the bucket, to communicate fully with his dear friend. Surely there was a solution, mustn't there be?
Ah, schöne Hintergrundgeschichte dafür, dass man ein paar Mal auf dem Hoch- und Runterknopf fährt. Er drückt. Ich glaube, wir fahren nochmal nach oben, oder? Mhm. Bin ich echt für.
Said Stanley. I know what to do. I know how to fully express this feeling in my heart. He decided right then and there that he would hold a press conference where he would speak to the public on all matters relating to pressing the number 3 over and over. He would elaborate fully on what the number 3 meant to him and why he felt so alive when pressing it. Then the bucket would be able to see his joy through the eyes of others. It would get to see the world react to this discovery of Stanley's. And it would be through the public eye that the bucket would finally understand Stanley's work.
Ja, wir sind da.
For months, he advertised and marketed his press conference,
All eyes
building
on
excitement
Stanley.
around it, developing and rehearsing it, until it couldn't be refined a single measure further. When the big day arrived, Stanley was as prepared as he'd ever been for anything in his life.
Dann wollen wir mal. World Peace Baby. Okay, alle Kinder sind grundsätzlich in Ordnung. Das war wieder ein Minecraft-Tür-Sound. Was haben wir hier noch alles? Tonight, live on stage, die Stanley Parable. Ja, schön. Schön, dass hier noch mit dem Spiel wieder in Metaebene gearbeitet wird. 3. Jawohl. 3.
This was it. One last chance to win the bucket over. One opportunity to share a true connection with a loved one.
Alles ganz viel 3. Up again, down again. Ja, das war, was wir gerade mit dem Aufzug gemacht haben. Doing great. The guy who went to Mars. Ja, ist nicht Elon Musk. Zumindest gerade nicht.
There was no one here. Nobody had come to the press conference to hear Stanley speak, to listen to him talk about what it really means to press the number 3 on a keypad over and over. He was unloved, uninteresting, he was a failure, and in that moment Stanley knew that the bucket would never again take him seriously. There would be no connection, no deeper understanding. The bucket merely sat there in his arms, indifferent. And so it began that slowly, over many years, the two of them grew more and more distant. They spoke less and less, neither wishing to state the obvious, that any sense of real respect between them had eroded since that day at the press conference. There would be no more games, no more long conversations about passion and pursuit, only a silence that consumed the space between friends. And Stanley, having for once in his life discovered the warmth and comfort of true companionship, was cast back into the unremarkable normalcy of loneliness.
Oh. Das ist ein trauriges Ende im Vergleich zu dem, was ich kenne. Ich spoilere das jetzt mal nicht, was hier passiert, wenn man ohne Eimer dahin geht. Aber das lief ganz anders ab. Schön. Oh. Ich wollte gerade eigentlich sagen, das war's, aber wir haben wieder das blaue
All
Büro.
of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room.
Ja,
Perhaps
wir haben es nochmal
simply missed a
gefunden.
memo.
Ich werde den Hundemodus aber wieder nicht anmachen. Das Ding ist zu nervig. Okay. Wobei, hier. Da, das Ende des Streams. Da ist es. Wir haben, glaube ich, das kürzeste Ende im Spiel gefunden. Jawohl. Dann bedanke ich mich fürs Zuschauen. Wir sehen uns im nächsten Part von The Stanley Parable wieder. Ich kann leider heute Abend nicht so lange streamen wie beim letzten Mal. Ja, das kommt davon, wenn man gerade halt arbeitet. Aber was soll's. Man sieht sich. Tschüss. sind eh immer komische Streams mit The Stanley Parable. Auch schwierig zu Let's Playen.